Section 00 of The Monk, a Romance. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by James K. White. The Monk, a Romance, by Matthew Gregory Lewis. Section 00. Introduction. The request of the publishers of the present volume for a preface raises the question, what reason is there to justify a new edition of Lewis's Monk, a book that has been reprinted very rarely since the time of its first appearance, and even so only in the form of abridged or more or less surreptitious editions? It may be admitted at once that this erst belauded romance has little claim to perpetuation on its own merits. Only disappointment awaits anyone who has taken too seriously the praise bestowed by his contemporaries on Lewis's genius and supposed gifts of powerful and unearthly imagination, and has been deceived by the story of his sudden leap into fame and of his literary friendship with Byron and Shelley into fancying The Monk in any way a great book. But the most notorious exemplar of the Gothic school of romance, the novel that summarized most concisely the idiosyncrasies of its kind, and gave so forcible a stimulus to the manufacture of tales of terror, has historical importance enough to be saved from the oblivion that waits upon very scarce books. Those, again, who pay any attention to the course of popular taste in reading, no unimportant factor in the literary history of a nation, will find The Monk worth examining at first hand. There is food for thought in the case of a man of mere average ability, who, on the strength of one crude production written in his teens, was able to find publishers and a market for a miscellaneous series of works that would daunt the hardihood of the most indefatigable researcher to read now, and who not only won with ease the success of such a writer as the late Guy Boothby, but was widely regarded as among the leading men of letters of his day. Perhaps, after all, it is reason enough for a reprint that the book is one everybody knows by name, yet few indeed have read. A Life of Matthew Gregory Lewis, 1775 to 1818, is extant in 2 volumes octavo, but to the fatuous indulgence of the anonymous biographer most readers will prefer the brief notice in the Dictionary of National Biography, which easily takes in all that has any interest in a very ordinary career. Born rich, he never had to face adversity in any shape, unless we except the differences between his father and mother, in which he took his mother's part and had his pocket money reduced in consequence. He never had to write a line for profit, though his gains from this source must have been considerable. He enjoyed his life, his letters leave no doubt on that point, but it was not a life worthy of commemoration in 2 volumes octavo. Prefixed to the 2 volumes there is a portrait which might have served all the purposes of a memoir. It is the face of a good-natured, insignificant young man who never made an enemy, a man who shone in private life, was kind to his slaves, and never had a brilliant idea in his life. His only qualification for writing books was an insatiable ambition, the cacoetis scribendi in its most vulgar form, combined with an indomitable industry that, by the grace of Providence, is not often allied to it. But there was no conceit, no egotism of any kind in Monk Lewis. He looked upon his gift for enthralling his readers by making their flesh creep as an unaccountable endowment of nature, and his letters show how conscious he was of his lack of any personal impressiveness to support the dignity of his reputation. This amiable modesty of his must have been the trait that pleased Shelley and Byron, who were, no doubt, very much amused at the spectacle of this little man, overwhelmed by the greatness thrust upon him by his friends. Lewis wrote The Monk in 1795, just before he was
Sample complete. Ready to continue?